Hi, today we're going to talk about the shirt. We're going to talk about what elements make a garment into a shirt. We have a few examples here today. We can talk through the elements only in a little bit of detail, as there will be other episodes linked to this one where we'll talk about these elements in much more detail, far more in depth for you to review. So I'm going to start at the top of the garment and we'll work our way down. So here we have our collar. This is an area of structure, so we can see that it is quite firm compared to the rest of the fabric. There is interfacing in here to stabilize it, and this creates an area of fit around the garment, so no matter how much ease or how much volume we have in the rest of the garment, it's still going to fit us and stay in place because it is held by the neck detail, the collar. This collar here is a traditional two-piece collar. We have our stand pieces and our collar pieces. Now, the formality of the collar and the structure around the neck can vary from shirt to shirt, and the angle and shape here on the collar. These are all style details that you as a designer can add your own flair to. Another option is something like this shirt here, which has a stand only area, sometimes known as a grandad collar, but still it has that element of structure, so we have fit with the generous volume of the shirt. Other examples we have hanging up with us today is this one here, which is a little wingtip collar. This would be worn with a dicky bow, a very formal dress shirt, worn with a tuxedo maybe. And you can see here, this is still one piece, like our grandad collar, but it has the extra element of that wingtip added around the neck. So moving down the garment from our collar area, we then have our yoke. The yoke is something that drapes over the shoulder and runs across the back. But we can see this edge here would be our normal armhole seam, but the yoke extends past this and drapes over the sleeve head where our normal seam would be. In doing so, this makes our sleeve insert, our armhole edge, quite deep, deeper than normal, and a much flatter sleeve head. So back onto our yoke here, if we feel on the stand, this line here, 2 centimeters back from this seam, would be the normal position of the shoulder. So this shows that this yoke wraps over the shoulder. So again, when we're pressing the sleeve, which we have on another video, you'll notice the crease of the overarm hits back from that yoke seam. It will not go into the seam. So moving down our garment on our sleeve, you will see that we have a sleeve opening, which is towards the back of the sleeve, just a few centimeters up from the underarm. This opening can be various processes applied to it. This one here has a placket opening with a pointed top and a button halfway. Again, these are very personal and elements that can be changed by you as the designer. Another example we have here on our military shirt is a straight, no button and square end to the placket. Moving down from the placket, we have another structural element of the cuff. Here the cuff is stabilized just as the collar to be much firmer than the garment. This one has a single button and buttonhole to create a fit around the wrist, and you can see the sleeve is pleated in to this cuff to give the element of fit there, and we can see then the generous volume of the sleeve. And if we go back to our garment here, we can see the cuff is much wider on this example. This is what we would call a double cuff or a French cuff, as this one folds back on itself and is actually fastened with cufflinks. So again, a different detail. If we go to the body of our shirt, we can see we have an applied pocket here. This one has a pointed detail at the base, and the top stitching of the facing of the pocket echoes that line. If there's a single pocket, this is usually on the left hand side as worn. You can also have pockets with flaps, as in this example, and you can see here we have two. We have a rounded detail this time, even though the flap is pointed. The buttoning down of the flap gives us added security to whatever is stored in our pocket. I have another example of a pocket here. This one has a flap, no button, but we have to go up and down into the pocket, so still an element of security there with whatever we keep in the pocket. The next element for categorization as a shirt, personally for myself, would be that it has a full front opening. This is buttoned and buttonholed as a fastening. Again, we would see some structural reinforcement here to cope with the extra details of the buttonholes and the stitching on of the buttons. This front that lays on top of our buttonholes, we can see is different to the side that has the buttons. There's no need to be fancy or add any detail on the buttonhole side, on the button side, because that is hidden. But on the buttonhole side, we can see we have a top stitch detail and the extra of a little pleat there. If we look on our shirt here, we can see we've just folded over and top stitched, and both sides are the same. So again, an element that can vary considerably. Another option here on our dress shirt to keep the front clean and not to be interrupted by the buttons. There is an extra pleat to totally conceal those buttons and buttonholes, which again we can see on this example here. We have the extra pleat just to keep the whole front of the garment clean as an aesthetic. The inside of the garment is also important when considering a shirt. So I'll just undo our buttons here. So we can see inside all the seams are clean and neat. Also on the back yoke, you will see that this is often a double layer. So it conceals the seams from the front and the back attach within. So there is a very professional and clean finish to the aesthetic of the inside of the shirt. With regards to literature to support the shirt, this book here offers quite an extensive variety for us. It talks about what it believes constitutes a shirt. We have the history of the shirt. We have lots of imagery here, some collar styles, ones with just stands, ribbed options, varieties of yokes, pockets, sleeve openings, other details on the front, through to drafting, and it talks later on through the book about construction. Another option for consideration. This one is a little bit more glossier than the first option. It has, again, its own categorization of what it believes a shirt to be. Within this publication here, it is a little bit more extensive than what we've covered with the garments that I showed as an example, but it goes through reasoning to why they've chosen those as classification of a shirt. It gives lots of details of measuring and blocks and buttonholes, construction, collar shapes. As you can see, there's quite an extensive section on the collars. The reasoning here, we've got some pleats to show why we've got the extra volume. Again, cuff details and pocket details. So all of which will help expand your knowledge of what constitutes as a shirt. So thank you for your time, and I look forward to seeing you on the other videos within this playlist where we talk about the details of the shirt much more extensively.